We meet again. I've been looking for you.
Hey, been a while. Had to take care of some things IRL, and that kept me from making anything besides my Splinter Cell playthroughs. It wasn't fun. I missed out on a lot of stuff. But things are settling down now, so I figured I could start back up slowly by covering more Next Fest titles. Just like before, there are way too many games available to cover them all, so I'll pick the ones that I really want to talk about, and show off any that caught my eye. I don't have a theme for these games, but I do have to say that indie gaming as a whole has come a long way when it comes to visuals. I can mistake some of these as being published back projects from a decade ago. We'll start with some action games. First up, Genokids.
Finally!
You know, I always wanted to ride one of these.
Yeah, me too.
Wow, really?
Of course not.
Oh.
That thing's for kids.
No, it's not.
Wait. You actually want to ride the kiddie ship?
No. It was a joke, bro. Man, you're being a pain in the ass.
A while back, I covered Solstice, and said that putting all of your influences into a game may not guarantee a good time. I'm glad that Genokids proved me wrong in that regard. It's a character action game being developed by Nukefist. The demo provides two characters, and you switch out between them by pressing the D-pad button that corresponds to their portraits on the HUD. I follow the game's Twitter account, and I know that you get two more characters in the full game. You start with Blue and Red. Blue plays guitar, and Red plays bongos. During combat, Blue's guitar turns into a sword, and Red's bongos become fist weapons. If you're a fellow noticer like me, you might have picked up that this game is operating on Wonderful 101's color scheme. You have an attack button, a launcher button, and a defense button. You do pause combos with Blue to throw out different sword combos. Red's combos aren't as deep, but you can charge each attack in his combo to deal additional damage, up to 2 levels. The launcher button either sends a grounded enemy skyward or slams an airborne enemy downward. The defense button lets you either block attacks if you press it while standing still, or a dodge roll if you press it while moving the left stick. If an enemy is out of range, you can bring yourself closer to them with the chase button. You can also use the chase button to grapple onto platforming objects while moving around the stages. As you fight, you build up flow energy that you can spend on unique skills. Hold down R2 and press a face button to perform a skill. You have another meter that builds up hype. When it's full, you activate it to buff your damage and recover health. Your attacks also gain additional properties while you're hyped. Essentially, it's your double trigger. So what are we looking at here? Well, basically, Genokids is borrowing the Ninja Theory Devil May Cry's control scheme, without as separate buttons for launching enemies and for grappling towards targets. Switching characters is effectively switching styles like in the mainline DMC games. And this comparison's kind of iffy, but the unique skills and combination block dodge action remind me of Platinum's TMNT game, but if it was good. The way I'm describing it, Genokid sounds like it's too derivative for its own good, kinda like Solstice. But unlike that game, the combat mechanics are streamlined and don't bog down the experience. In Solstice, you had to get a basic combo streak going to unlock the cooler abilities. Genokids is pretty straightforward. Hit enemies, build meter, use skills, and avoid damage. The character switching isn't just a gimmick. It's an important maneuver that you need to train to bypass the delay you'd normally get from attacks with long recovery animations, like Red's downward attack, or after getting hit by an enemy. Even the boss fight at the end looks like Artemis from DMC5, but you can tell from its attack patterns that it's more than just a clone of that boss. The cutscenes have an art style that looks deliberately amateurish, like what happens if you grew up on how to draw manga books from Michaels. This isn't a dig on the game. I think it gives it some charm. It reminds me of the animatic cutscenes in Bayonetta. I like what I see, I'm interested in how the other two characters will play, and I'm hungry for more. Keep this game in mind if you're looking for more hacking and slashing. The next game on the list is also an action game, but with a greater emphasis on mobility. Initially, I was put off that Poem X Machina did not have controller support, but after going through it, I think it's one of the few action games that handles well on mouse and keyboard. It might even be up there with Oni. You play as Clopin. Your handler, Cell, sends you on jobs throughout the city to fight aberrations. You go to various sites to investigate and discover nexus points that brings you to an aberration's domain. Clopin has 3 modes: normal, fighting, and skating. Normal is Clopin's default state. Walk around and press F to talk to people or inspect objects. When you're in the presence of enemies, you'll go into fighting mode. Use the mouse buttons to perform combos. Ending mouse 1 strings with mouse 2 results in different attacks. The game says that shift is your block button, but it's actually a dodge action. If you press it at the right time, you'll proc a perfect dodge. In more open arenas, you can switch to skating mode. You can still attack with mouse 1, but now mouse 2 will put you into an aiming mode and temporarily slow down time. You can also grind on rails by jumping on them, or hop on top of poles by pressing mouse 3. As you fight, you build meter. Hold down and release mouse 1 to use a meter to buff your attacks. If you do it with a full meter, you perform an AoE attack that hits every enemy surrounding you. The boss fight at the end of the demo is where I see most of Poem's influences. A bit of Persona, some Nier, even some Bayonetta in the final phase. My only gripe with this fight is that I keep getting knocked off stage by this attack in the 3rd phase. I know there's a hurt box I have to avoid, but I can't figure out what's knocking me around. I'd like some more visual feedback from the attack to see what I have to dodge. Like Genokids, Poem's art style also evokes the anime-inspired aesthetic, but the motion graphics really push the art direction for me, and it's where I think the Persona influences really come into the forefront. I have one more action game to highlight, but it won't be as in-depth as the previous 2.
もうこれじゃ出られない。このままじゃあいつらに追いつかれる。
お前、名前。
あ、ごめん。そうだな。チビトとでも呼んでくれ。
チビト。僕、チビト。守る。大丈夫。僕、壊れない。
I follow Mari Shimazaki, the character designer for Bayonetta, on Twitter. She promoted her friend's upcoming game, IZON. It's an action game where you play as a nigh invulnerable weapon, charged with protecting a small figure. Because you're invincible, you only have to worry about your buddy's health. If she takes damage, you can carry her to slowly recover her health, but you won't be able to use both arms during combat. You can issue commands to have her follow you, but she's more vulnerable on foot. If you think an enemy is going to attack her, you can activate a shield to absorb any incoming damage. I think you can proc a shockwave attack if you deactivate the shield just as an enemy attack connects. You can swap out your left arm for a gun and your right arm for a blade. The gun can power up machinery, and the blade can cut through certain obstacles. Most of the gameplay is either solving puzzles with your buddy or fighting rooms full of enemies. The most standout feature of IZON is that the characters aren't humanoid. I think this is a deliberate choice so as not to worry about making cheap-looking human models that wouldn't stand up to closer scrutiny. I like how your character's skeletal frame looks so intricate, like a hollowed-out Warframe suit. Knowing that the game's director also worked on Bayonetta makes sense, as the way the fins on your arms flare out resemble the feathered tassels on Bayonetta's sleeves. Also, there's a chapter in Bayonetta where she has to protect a little girl from Paradiso monsters with a magical barrier. The game looks very impressive, but I had performance issues in certain instances. I think it runs on Unreal 5, as it tends to chug on my old rig, despite not having much on screen. Also, I noticed there would be delays or lost inputs when I want to switch out weapons in certain fights. This shouldn't be happening in a game made by a former Bayonetta developer. Hopefully, the team optimizes this before they release the game later this month. Now that we're done with the action games, let's talk about some ImSims. wasn't sure if I was gonna like Peripeteia, despite it being exactly what I wanted, which is OG Deus Ex, but bigger. Seriously, imagine if DX had the level design of I Divine Cybermancy. Grade-based inventory, cybernetic augmentations in lieu of magic, open-ended level design that encourages multiple approaches to solve a problem. It's all here. You play as Marie, a discarded cyborg that awakens in the middle of a trash heap. Once you figure your way out, you run into the junker who found your body. He makes you an offer. Go to the nearby observatory and bring him back something from it, and he'll give you a train ticket out of the city. He's not sending you out empty-handed though. You get to choose from his inventory an augment you can use during combat, and a starting weapon tailored to your preferred playstyle. Wanna be discreet? Take the Mosin and Silencer. Wanna be loud? Take the double-barrel shotgun. The augments he gives you take up space in your inventory, and you have to map them to your function keys in order to use them. Obviously, the cloak aug turns you invisible. The time dilation aug is effectively bullet time. I still haven't figured out how to use a puppet aug, as it's supposed to let you control other people, but I don't know how it works. I played it safe on every run and always chose Cloak and Silence Mosin. Now, unlike Deus Ex, Peripeteia doesn't require you to put skill points into any weapon proficiency, so you can pick up any gun and use it without having to wait an eternity to line up a shot. Once you've picked your weapon, you can assign it to your hotbar at the bottom of the screen by either dragging it to the slot you want, or highlighting it with your mouse and pressing the corresponding number key. Guns need ammo, and ammo needs to be stored in magazines. If you only have one mag for your gun, you have to constantly take it out and refill it with ammo. You can take the magazines off of other guns by picking them up and pressing mouse 2. You can also unload ammo from any magazines or guns by selecting the action in the drop-down menu after pressing mouse 2. You can put attachments on your guns, like silencers and lasers. If you want to remove them, you need to select the Inspect button from the drop-down menu, select the attachment on the Inspect screen, and drag it over to your inventory. Your guns have different firing modes that you can toggle by pressing X. This includes turning on their safeties. It's really only useful for when you need to have an automatic weapon fire more precisely with semi-auto fire. Once you found your way out of the starting building, you can finally appreciate just how large the stage is for this demo. Your leg aug will help you run farther and jump higher to reach the ladders and ledges you need to climb across the gaps. Unlike other games, you can't just climb a ladder by moving up or down on it. You have to press space to jump up to each rung, or move away from the ladder and let gravity take over, and then move towards the ladder again to kill your fall to move down. It's awkward at first, but you get used to it. When you reach the observatory, that's when the game opens up with the various routes you can take. The militia group occupying the observatory won't let you pass unless you plant a bomb in the police station next door, which will cause some collateral damage. If you go through with it, you can move freely through the observatory without the risk of a gunfight. Or, you can make use of the shadows in your cloak aug and this little nook right next to the guard to sneak past him and his buddies. Or, you could avoid them entirely by jumping straight down into the well. If you check on your installed augs, you'll find that you can do a mid-air jump to negate fall damage, but only if you haven't already jumped in the air in the first place. Whatever path you choose, you still have to shut off the machine before you can take whatever you need from it. This will take you into an area in the sewers occupied by another faction, which will lead you to a route that will bring you to the city's tram station center, where you have to sneak or fight with more guards. And unlike Deus Ex, the leader at the top of the building won't surrender peacefully. This happened so fast that it didn't register to me what was going on until I reviewed the footage. Once you get what you need here, you go back to the sewers, then back to the observatory, then back to the junker, and you're finally ready to clear the mission. That was a really involved process. There's gotta be a faster way to do this. And there is. Instead of going to the police station to plant a bomb, you can go to the front desk to report a crime, wait for your number to be called, and rat out the junker who found you. Now you can avoid doing all that fighting and just head straight for the train out of town. But wait, there is another way. If you choose this path, you'll never have to fire a gun. Oddly enough, beating the mission this way will still give you a kill count of 3 bodies, so I'm not sure what causes that. I really like the iconography for your Augs. Reminds me of the Vault Boy illustrations in Fallout. Also, the meter that indicates how brightly lit you are and how much noise you make is really effective and adorable. If you're jonesing for some more classic Deus Ex, Peripeteia might be up your alley. But be aware that, even with all the tutorial tips and hints that NPCs give you, this is still the deep end of the pool when it comes to immersive sim gameplay. If you want a game in the same genre but on a smaller scale, you're in luck. We have Skin Deep.
We failed, boss. The insurance commando freed the cats.
That washed-up Meow Corp hack kicked your butts? I'm disappointed in you. Activate the self-destruct, then turn on your skull saver. I'll have someone scoop your noggin out of the wreck.
Yes, ma'am.
I want Nina Pasadena dead!
I'm a big fan of Blendo games. I may not play every game they make, but they have such a great handle on visual design that effectively communicates mechanics to the player. Skin Deep is their latest project, and it's an ImSim that pokes fun at the ImSim genre. You play as Nina Pasadena, an insurance agent squaring off against a band of pirates that are attacking a freight ship in space. When you wake up from cryosleep, you find the ship in lockdown mode and the crew captured. As Nina, your goal is to rescue the crew by restoring functions back to the ship, as well as neutralizing the pirates. But all you've got are your wits, a defib unit, and whatever you can get your hands on in the ship. You can tell that Blendo Games was heavily inspired by Valve's design philosophies, especially Portal. The big instructional diagrams that explain your controls are placed in the exact spot they need to be for you to associate the action with the obstacle. When things require a bit more specificity, a crewmate's messages in green will spell out what you need to do. And if you still need a bit more guidance or just some flavor text, you can press Shift and inspect objects to get an idea of their purpose. Think of the scan visor in Metroid Prime, but you're finding out that the liquid soap dispensers on the ship contain a flammable gas. Once you've learned the basic movements, you learn how to deal with the pirates. They've invested in head preservation, which means that no matter what happens to their bodies, their heads can go to the nearest respawn station and get a fresh body. This means that taking out enemies is a two-step process. First, you gotta stun them. Throw a pepper box at them to cause them to sneeze uncontrollably, or toss a banana peel on the ground in front of them so they end up slipping on it. Once they're incapacitated, move in for the kill. Hop on them and steer them into fixtures on the wall to damage their bodies. When you've destroyed the bodies, then you deal with the heads. You can throw them in the trash disposal once you restore its functions, or flush them down the toilet. When you've secured an area, you can look for the keys that will release the crewmates. The crewmates are cats, by the way, and they're stored in boxes. When you've secured the entire ship, you can extract by leaving the ship and reaching the escape pod outside. Don't worry, you can breathe in space, apparently. The visual design does a lot of heavy lifting to establish the comedic and lighthearted tone of the game, but so do the rules that the game imposes. For instance, if you decide to crawl through the air vents to move through the ship, you gotta deal with the fact that you can't turn around 180 degrees in the vents unless you're in the yellow sections. You also have to watch out for the sneeze meter, as the dust particles in the vents will cause you to go into a sneezing fit. My favorite thing the game does is that whenever you talk to the captain of the ship, the lights dim down and a spotlight focuses on him, while a slideshow projection loops around in the walls to provide the visuals with exposition.
9, 8,
Nina, I'll defuse the bomb.
6, 5, 4. Self-destruct cancelled. Bombs defused.
I'm really looking forward to the full release of Skin Deep. I'm not sure how long the development has been going on, but I remember only seeing tidbits of various interactions in the game systems that felt more like shitposts than actual gameplay footage. So I'm glad I can finally see the vision. We've covered action games and ImSims. Now it's time for something more unconventional. promised Mascot Agency looks like one of those games that YouTubers and streamers are going to flock towards for their wacky Japanese aesthetic. But under the hood, it's got a lot going on. You play as an ex-Yakuza sent to some town in the sticks. You have to manage a mascot agency that's about to go under. In this world, mascots aren't people in funny animal suits, but sentient beings who live with regular humans. Sonic Adventure, but every non-human is Chitan. To get the business up and running, you have to recruit mascots. You negotiate their wages by offering them bonuses and time off or other benefits, but you can renegotiate their terms at any point once they're recruited. You also have to make business contacts in town to secure jobs. When you've got a gig lined up, you send out whichever mascot you think best fits the job. You don't actually see what the mascot does, so the game has an idle element to the experience. But if things get hairy on the job, you have the option to intervene. You see a live feed of the event and find out what's holding the mascot back from completing their job. Now, the game becomes a light card battler. You can recruit various townsfolk to serve as assists for your mascot, and to serve as the cards you need to assist them. If they succeed, the mascot finishes the job and gets additional bonuses. If they fail, the job still finishes, but they won't get the same amount of benefits as a successful gig. Most of the game is driving around town looking for mascots or jobs, and waiting for the mascots you've already sent out on jobs to complete theirs. There's things to do in town that'll help your business one way or another, and you can acquire items to send along with your mascots to lower the chances of having a bad time. If I had to sum up the gameplay, it's like if the hostess management activity in Yakuza 0 was combined with the merc deployment system in Phantom Pain, while you're driving around the open world of No More Heroes or Deadly Premonition. The writing's great and carries a lot of the game's charm. My only criticism is that I think the audio mixing tends to drown out the main character's voice. Also, I don't speak Japanese, so I tend to cut off some line deliveries abruptly because I think a character is done talking.
前回ピンキーが失礼な態度を取った件についての謝罪とマスコット事務所の営業許可証の再取得についてこちらそう言わなかコンチビスケがわしの孫娘の誕生会は台無しにしやがったしな
If the devs ever want to do a sponsored stream to promote the game, they gotta get Korone on this because it would be peak brain synergy. The game with the severed pinky finger serving as the face of the brand, being played by the Yubi doll girl. Seriously, Yago, don't fumble this. That's it for all the games I want to cover this next fest. I took a bit longer to explain things this time, but I felt it was necessary to really sell you on what each of these games offer. If their demos are still available, try them out and let me know what you think.